Shadow and light source both. How does a part of the world leave the world? How does wetness leave water? Don't try to put out fire by throwing on more fire. Don't wash a wound with blood. No matter how fast you run, your shadow keeps up. Sometimes it's in front. Only full overhead sun diminishes your shadow, but that shadow has been serving you. What hurts you blesses you. Darkness is your candle. Your boundaries are your quest. I could explain this, but it will break the glass cover on your heart, and there is no fixing that. You must have shadow and light source both. Listen and lay your head under the tree of awe. When from that tree feathers and wings sprout on you, be quieter than a dove. Don't even open your mouth or even a poo. The symbolism when seen would open up the entire poem for us. The person and the shadow are invariably related to each other. They are one. So you see the ubiquitous game of duality there. The person is you, the shadow is the world. The person is you, the shadow is the world. Even factually, there must be the world, the earth, an object, a wall, something there on which your shadow may fall. So one requires the world for the shadow to be there. Equally, one requires the world for you to be there. The shadow represents the world, and you are the dualistic counterpart of the shadow or the world. That's what Rumi means by the shadow. That which is due to you, that which is projected by you, that which is so very similar to you, that which is always along with you. All of these point towards the world. How the world appears to you depends on how you look at yourself. The way you are, so is the world for you. Just as your shadow has much the same form as you. Is this much clear?
Yes.
The person and the shadow. The sun is that from which both the person and the shadow arise. The sun is that from which both the person and the shadow arise. It appears as if the sun gives rise only to the shadow. It appears as if when the sun is not there, the shadow disappears, but the person remains. But the fact is that when the sun would really disappear, then the person would also disappear. Even in its disappearance, the sun is present in oblique ways, in intangible, invisible ways, and that is what is making the presence of the person possible. Every bit of energy that you have on the earth and in your bodily system is the energy of the sun. So even when it is night time, you are actually living out of the energy of the sun. Even if it is night time and you are gazing at the stars and the moon, you are actually looking at the sun. Even if it is night time, the food that you have consumed and is serving you, even in the night, is the food that has grown from the energy of the sun. So, not only is the shadow made possible by the sun, even the person is made possible by the sun. In total, what does that mean? It means that both ends of the person-shadow duality, of the person-world duality, are made possible by the sun only. Sun is then that which is not a part of the person-world duality, but makes this duality possible. This duality arises from something that is non-dual. Sun is the source of this duality, the non-dual source of all dualities. Sun therefore represents what you can call as the truth, the God, the source. You may pick a name. I didn't. Why is the world the shadow of the person, and why is the person not a shadow of the world? Because all these things are being talked of by persons. Because consciousness, as persons know it, vests in the person and not in the world. Because by the very definition, which is the man-made definition, the person-made definition of the world is that which the person looks at. The world is that which the person looks at. So the world is the shadow. Is that clear? Now, what is the relation between the shadow and the person? In Rumi's world, the shadow is the curse of the person. The shadow is the person's suffering, the person's bane. The shadow is something that sometimes trails the person and sometimes tempts the person. When it trails you, then you are looking for it and not finding it. When it is ahead of you and it tempts you, then it is visible, observable, apparently ready to be had, but still beyond your reach, because the further you move to get hold of your shadow too moves equally ahead. So in Rumi's world, which is the world of the mystic, which is the world of wisdom, your shadow is your curse. What does that mean? What is Rumi saying? He is saying that the relation between the person and the world is of inadequacy, insufficiency. Man looks at the world in either of the two ways. Either the world is a threat hostile, aggressive, belligerent, vicious. And man has to safeguard himself against that threat. So man will build all kinds of walls, raise all kinds of securities, fortify himself within a network, armor himself with belief, with knowledge, with powers of all kinds. Or the world is a temptation, enamoring, lucrative, attractive, seductive, pulling the person towards itself, and the person, besotted by desire, keeps running after the world. The world then looks like an opportunity that would give you peace, sufficiency, contentment. Sadly, the opportunity hardly ever materializes. Even if it appears to materialize, time wipes out all that which is material about the world. So, whether the world is a threat or a temptation, the relationship between man and the world is one of suffering. Rumi says your shadow is your enemy. The more you perceive the world, the longer your shadow is, the more you are in some kind of self-inflicted trauma. The only way to get rid of the shadow, the world, is to have the sun right overhead. What does that mean? That means that right above the head of the person, and the head represents the ego, right above the head of the person, the sun must keep shining. The person must be directly below the truth. And if the person is directly below the truth, if the person is in this way surrendered to the truth, then the shadow is minimized. Not only is it minimized, it is then actually directly beneath the person's feet. That too is symbolic. If you can have the sun directly above your head, then your shadow will be directly below your feet, confined there. If you can have the truth, God, directly above your head, if you're surrendered to that one, then the entire world will be below your feet. Because your shadow, symbolic of the world as it is, will be below your feet. That's the imagery that Rumi is using. Clear?